clouds are breaking, the rain has cleared away, summer returns to the Lausitzring for race 2 of the weekend, for round 5 of the season for the ADAC GT Masters. We are enjoying the Family and Friends Festival here at the Lausitzring. It has been a fabulous weekend. Despite the fact that yesterday was very wet, it gave us a very dramatic race, race 1 of the weekend, race 9 of the season in the ADAC GT Masters. We saw a debut win for Team Youth Sportwagen Technique and a debut win for ADAC Guven in the Porsche. Christian Engelhardt, well, he's used to all this winning, really, isn't he? He's the 2020 champion, but he was very grateful for that, as well as they took the top step of the podium yesterday. Jack Aitken and Albert Costa Balboa, both recovering from a spin in the slippery conditions, came home in second, ahead of a debut podium for Max Paul and Marco Mipelli. Today, the track is dry, but in qualifying this morning, it was greasy, and that man there, Nicky Katzberg, just proved why he is an absolute legend in GT3 racing. He put in an extraordinary lap to put the Schubert Motorsport BMW on pole position. Sven Muller, another vastly experienced pilot, also doing very well in the drying conditions to score a second place on the grid. And yesterday's spinners, Jack Aitken, along with co-driver Albert Costa Balboa, they line up third on the grid, and it was Jack Aitken who qualified the Emil Racing Lamborghini Huracan on third place on the grid. You can see him there alongside Albert Costa Balboa talking to the great and good of Emil Racing, and great spirit between them. Albert Costa Balboa said after yesterday's race, "If you'd have told me that having spun twice that we would finish on the podium, I would not have believed you." There's the defending champion in the ADAC GT Masters, Christopher Mies, having one of his best qualifying sessions of the season, and he lines up 4th on the grid. This morning's qualifying was something quite special, was it, Adam Weller?
It really was, Brian. It was something very intriguing indeed. I believe this man, Christopher Mies, was the fastest of those that diligently stuck to the treaded wet tyres. Nicky Katzberg, however, spent the entire 20-minute session on slicks in defiance of all logic in the early stages when it was still very greasy indeed. But he had that reliable data, not data through a laptop, data through a foot, data through a slightly lower body part, just letting him know what the grip was, lap on lap on lap. And so when it came to that last push, he knew exactly where the grip was, and that gave him the biggest qualifying margin we've seen in a long time, 1.2 seconds between the two cars on the front row. But by that, no means does that mean that Nick Katzberg is going to drive away. Now that we're in the dry conditions, everyone's on a level playing field, this race is going to be very compelling.
It is indeed. There's yesterday's winner, ADAC Guven in the Team Youth Sportwagen Technique Porsche. I should think they've got some sore heads after last night. As mentioned, the track is now bone dry, so the wet conditions have gone away. We're not expecting any rain during this race. There is still a little bit of cloud around, but the temperature is rising, nearly 22 degrees centigrade. And as you said already, Adam, it was Nicky Katzberg of that pole position. He was just trucking around non-stop during qualifying. He just kept going and going and going, getting more and more heat into those tyres, and eventually putting in that epic lap that at the time was 1.2 seconds quicker than anybody else. In GT Masters, we so often see the entire field covered by around a second, just over a second. That is not the case today. It was all about that strategy in qualifying.
It definitely was. I'll say the Audi teams in particular have done a good job in this quali. We've got 5 Audis in the top 10. We saw Christopher Haase, I believe, with his highest starting position of the year. Mattia Drudi there in the 33 car, the Verstappen liveried machine that he shares with Thierry Vermeulen. There's Luca Engstler, 9th place in the Retronic 15 car. But 5 Audis in the top 10, that's by far, I think, the highest quantity of those that we've had at the sharp end so far this year.
And talking of the sharp end of the grid, there are 2 drivers that are not at the sharp end, and one of them is that car there, Jules Gounon. He's quite a long way down in the pack. Jules Gounon not having the best of times in qualifying. He's on row 5 of the grid, but his main championship rival, Raffaele Marciello is even further back on row 7. The Mercedes not really enjoying the dry conditions. In fact, Jules Gounon is the highest placed Mercedes in the field. So all of the Mercedes towards the back part of the grid.
It's something I heard in the paddock on Friday, that a few people were expecting the Mercedes to not be as strong here as it was at the Nürburgring a fortnight ago, where they took the clean sweep of qualifying pole positions and race victories. I wasn't quite expecting it to be this severe of a drop in form, though. We'll have to see what Juncadella can do, of course, from 13th place. He is in the hot seat alongside Raffaele Marciello, having transferred over from Drago ZVO. Of course, Raffaele Marciello currently our points leader, only 7 points clear from the car that starts 6th on the grid. An uphill task for his new Spanish teammate and Raffaele.
Yes, so it's a new livery for Daniel Juncadella for this race. He was, of course, in the Drago Racing Team ZVO Mercedes for much of the season alongside Jan Marszałkowski. He's jumped across to join Raffaele Marciello, who has got through a fair few teammates this year. He started off with Jonathan Aberdeen at Oschersleben and Red Bull, then Lorenzo Ferrari at Zandvoort. Great partnership with Mauro Engel at the Nürburgring. Now there's a controversial race. And now Daniel Juncadella. We believe Juncadella is going to be alongside him for the rest of the season. And Jan Marszałkowski gets Marvin Dienst alongside him, which is great to welcome Marvin Dienst back to the grid of ADAC GT Masters. He's a previous winner. He did a great job yesterday in the wet. Poor old Jan Marszałkowski had a little bit of a slip up in the absolute latter stages of the race, which robbed him of a good result. The Drago Racing Team ZVO crew were working through the night. They were attacking the back of that Mercedes with a sledgehammer when I dropped into the garage. There is the other of the Schubert Motorsport BMWs. That has got Ben Green at the wheel. He has had a qualifying that was nowhere near as successful as Nicky Katzberg. He's down on row 8. You had a chat to Ben this morning, didn't you?
I did. He was rather subdued by the fact that he hadn't been on the slicks as long as Katzberg had. Of course, very much high risk, high reward for Nicky Katzberg being on the slicks all session long, but Ben Green didn't feel he quite had that foot data, that information he needed to know exactly where the grip was by the end of the session. Ben will be looking to capitalise and move up the order, as Nicholas Cruton did yesterday. They started well down the order, but they did work their way back up to the fringes of the top dozen.
There is the refurbished Jan Marszałkowski car that's been worked on. It's got traces of Lamborghini in the back of it. You saw briefly a Porsche with a green and black livery just now. It is the Dynamic Motorsport Porsche guesting here at the Lausitzring this weekend. It's great to welcome Dynamic Motorsport to the grid. Hopefully, we're going to see them campaigning a full season in 2023. So we wish them good luck. They have two very strong drivers in Klaus Bachler, who started the season off for ID Racing, and Adrian Delina. We welcome him back to the grid. Between them, they have 150 GT Masters races, so they know their way around. You saw a quick picture then of Marcus Winkelhock and Ricardo Feller.
Yes, we spoke about the strength of the Audis, 5 in the top 10, but 2 on the back row of the grid. Ricardo Feller and Marcus Winkelhock colliding 3 times in about 5 corners in qualifying earlier today towards the end of the session. They both ended up in a spin, and drama ensued. They will have to do a lot of work to get a good result today.
So the cars are running, the grid is formed. Let's take a look. It's Nicky Katzberg on pole position. Great qualifying from Sven Muller alongside Jack Aitken and Christopher Mies on row 2. As we saw before, Dennis Marshall and yesterday's winner Ian Chen Guven on row 3. Whilst on row 4 we have Christopher Haase and Matthias Drudy, an all Audi row. Row 5 of the grid, Luca Engsler and Jules Gounon. That's a long way back for him. And on row 6, Mick Wiesofer and Frank Pereira make it an all Lamborghini Emelfrey racing row. Daniel Juncadella and Juuso Puhakka, we welcome him to the grid for Mad Panda Racing, with Elias Seppänen and Ben Green in the BMW occupying row 8. Row 9, Norbert Siedler and Klaus Bachler. Hello, Klaus. Good to have you back on the grid. Jan Marszałkowski in the Mercedes alongside Marco Mappelli away. And then at the back, on the naughty step, Ricardo Feller and Marcus Winkelhock both have been to see the stewards, and both I've had a talking to. We'll have no more of that kind of stuff in this race. Thank you very much.
Yes, I believe there was some kind of private discussion between the two as well, but hopefully that is all in the distant past at this stage. I don't know if private is necessarily the word. They were outdoors at the time.
From what I saw, no.
But, Nick Katzberg, far away from any of those dramas, on the pole position. It must be said that this year, the number 10 car, the so-called junior entry from Schubert, Ben Green and Nicholas Cruton, two drivers in the junior classification of ADAC GT Masters, has typically been the quicker car. That's been the one, of course, that took the 2 victories at the Red Bull Ring. This is a chance for Nick Katzberg and Jesse Krohn, two of the foremost drivers in the BMW Factory GT program, to finally get their win and stamp their authority on proceedings.
The engines are running. We are getting ready for the formation lap of this ADAC GT Masters, race 10 of a 14 race season. Just to remind you, we have a success penalty that is awarded to drivers. So if you win yesterday, you get a penalty today. Arjen Guven and Christian Engelhardt, for all their efforts, carrying an extra 20 kilos in the Team U Sportwagen Technique Porsche. Jack Aitken and Albert Costa Balboa carry an extra 10 kilos, and Max Paul and Marco Mapelli carry an extra 5 kilos. It's just for this race. They didn't have it in qualifying, but that will obviously affect their performance a little bit. So the championship is wide open. It is Raffaele Marciello who leads the championship, but only by 7 points. Back up into second place in the point standings is Christian Engelhardt and Arjen Guven. So there is so much to play for. We're getting to the business end of the season as the cars start in the now traditional Le Mans style from the home straight, the pit straight, and they start on their formation lap.
Formation lap underway then. Yesterday they had 2 formation laps because of the rain, and we had a slightly reduced 57-minute race duration as a result of that. Dry conditions today, no such concern, so we are going to have the full 1 hour plus 1 lap and just the 1 formation lap. Therefore, we are just a couple of minutes removed from these cars going into 2x2 formation and the race beginning in earnest. There you see that point situation. This man, Raffaele Marciello, is our points leader by just 7 over Engelhardt and Guven. Christian Engelhardt has taken a double win here before, back in 2012 with Nick Tandy. If he can do the same this year, he could leave the Lausitzring along with Arjen Guven as our points leader. That's a position they're somewhat familiar with.
Don't count out Jules Gounon and Fabian Schiller, neither Jack Aitken or Albert Costa Balboa. There are so many drivers still in the hunt here for the championship. We are at the Lausitzring. We are on the short course. It is a circuit that is 3.478 kilometers around with 12 turns, 7 to the left, 5 to the right, and rather unusually, the cars run in an anti-clockwise direction, which I'm told is quite a discipline for the drivers to get used to. We are on the latter part of the formation lap now, heading in towards turn 10, and soon the cars will take up onto part of the tri-oval, and that'll be turn 11, up onto the banking, and then they'll head out onto turn 12, ready to start this race 10 of a 14 race season. After this weekend, we are into the penultimate round. The championship is alive and kicking. It's a great sight. The cars side by side. The safety car is ducking off into the pit lane. This is the toughest GT3 category in the world. This is the ADAC GT Masters, and we are go. It's Nicky Katzberg who leads into turn 1, but here comes the challenge from Sven Muller on the outside. This is a real pinch point, but Katzberg squeezes Muller to the outside and holds on to that lead. The rest of the cars coming through. Christopher Mees up into 3rd place. He's got the jump on Jack Aitken. It looks like everybody's made it around turn 1, riding on board with Arjen Guven. There's a whole gaggle of cars behind. Overtaking on this windy section of the track is not easy, but it's Nicky Katzberg who's leading the way, coming under pressure though from Sven Muller.
Juuso Puhaka is having an education in ADAC GT Masters. The Mad Panda has fallen all the way to the back. One of the Emil Frey cars off on the grass at turn 6. I believe that might be Mick Wieshofer, who went off the circuit only momentarily. Everyone's still trying to find track position. Some of them are going rally crossing. Nick Katzberg continues to lead the way. One of the Emil Frey cars there went off the circuit quite majorly. I believe that was Frank Pereira losing places.
And Matthias Drudy, also another car that went off wide of the track, but it looks like they are all still in the race, everybody pointing in the right direction. Nicky Katzberg leading the way, so it is an hour of racing plus 1 lap for the ADAC GT Masters, coming round to complete lap number 1 into turn 11, turn 12, onto the pit straight. This is the best overtaking opportunity on the track in towards turn 1, and Nicky Katzberg under pressure from Sven Muller. Muller looks to the outside, under braking into turn 1. He's too far back to do anything about it, trying to push Katzberg into a mistake. You've got to get up early in the morning to do that. Katzberg leading the way still in the mighty BMW, but now Muller coming under pressure from Christopher Mies. It's BMW versus Porsche versus Audi. Muller looks to the inside. He can't find a gap. Christopher Mies coming back in the 1, 2, 3, running together on the track. Now Muller takes to the inside line. Katzberg goes to shut the door, but Christopher Mies, he's there and ready to bounce. And now Jack Aitken also joining this battle. Here comes Christopher Mies round the outside of Sven Muller. Muller holding on to that second place. This is allowing Nicky Katzberg to draw away. So Muller suddenly having to defend heavily from the Audi behind him. Here comes Jack Aitken. Keep an eye on Arjen Guven in the background as well.
Very exciting stuff at the sharp end of the order and indeed further down. I heard it from a couple of people that this is not a BMW track. Nick Katzberg, through sheer will, determination and just a little bravery, stuck the car on pole position, but a few paddock figures thought that perhaps once we got into the meat of the racing, he'd have to defend hard, and we're already seeing it on lap number 2. He's got a Porsche, he's got an Audi, and he's got a Lamborghini for company. Jack Aitken there in 4th place too.
Sven Muller taking an entirely different line down this straight as he tries to attack Nicky Katzberg. Of course, if he tries to make the move and it doesn't stick, Christopher Mies will be through. He does not need an invitation. Jack Aitken staying in contact, a bit of a gap back to Arjen Guven, then it's Christopher Haase, Dennis Marshall, Jules Gounon trying to make progress from mid-order, but Christopher Haase has already got past Dennis Marshall, so Haase is also moving forwards. That's the other of the yellow Mambas. That's Elias Zeppelin. He's a little bit further back to the leaders here though. Nicky Katzberg leading the way from Sven Muller, Christopher Mies and Jack Aitken. I don't think they're going to stay in this order for that long.
No, you get the feeling there's a whiff of inevitability about upheaval and change at the sharp end of the order as the race wears on. Sven Muller having to be preoccupied with the sight of Christopher Mies behind him. Mies, of course, one of our 2 defending champions, along with Ricardo Feller, who unfortunately is still down there in 20th place. There we see Feller in the 29 car through the shot. Hasn't really been his season to this point, but he is about to maybe challenge Marszalkowski for P19 as they run through T10 and 11.
So up high onto the banking they come. Katzberg just opening up a little bit of a lead from Sven Muller and Christopher Mies. The rest of the cars coming through at the moment. This is another look at the start. And it was a great start from Nicky Katzberg, but Sven Muller knew that his best opportunity to get past that big BMW was going to be into turn 1. You could see him going high up into the corner. Jack Aitken was just willing them to get together so that he could sneak through, but they went into turn 1 side by side. It was Katzberg who held on to that position. To remind you, this is an hour-long race, and during this race there will be a pit window that opens as we look at the view again of the start from the perspective of Arjen Guven, and you can see how close they were into turn 1. You can see that Christopher Mies did actually give Jack Aitken a little bit of a love tap as he came through, and that was the view from Dennis Marshall. Yeah, contact, what contact? As I mentioned earlier, there is a pit window that will open 25 minutes into this race and close 35 minutes into this race. During that 10-minute window, every car will be required to visit the pits for a mandatory stop and a driver change. And all these drivers will be handing over to their co-drivers And that is when the excitement really kicks off as we look back at Jules Gounon. You can see how much rubbing there was, how many cars went wide, and that was the one that you spotted earlier, the Lamborghini going wide on that opening lap.
Yeah, V-Silver really did go rally crossing there. I was mistaken earlier on. It was V-Silver who went off at turn 7. The prior call to turn 6 was when Frank Pereira had a moment. 2 out of 3 Emil Frey Lamborghinis having some dramas. Juncker Deyer 3 wide and on the grass at one point on the first lap. Klaus Backler did some rally crossing too in the dynamic Porsche. There's only so many cameras we can look at one time in the TV box, of course. And a first lap at the Lausitzring is always a very dramatic thing. There's an illustration of a highlight reel there.
It really is. Car 19, which is Frank Pereira, did receive a black and white flag. That is a warning from our race steward for forcing another car off the track. We have a safety car out. Now, I'm not entirely sure why that is. Peering out the window, we can't see anybody.
It has come out onto the circuit, so it is correct.
Safety car, I can only assume there must be some debris out on the course. There is Ron Dobmeyer, the safety car driver, who is a fireman as well as a safety car driver. Useless bit of information, and that is why there's a bit of debris in the middle of the track there. The car's just circulating around. That would be around turn 7, I think. So there's been a little bit of contact, and very wide. That looks like a bit of yellow mamba, or is it? Yeah, it looks like a bit of yellow mamba to me.
It's either yellow mamba or used Sportenwagen Porsche, I'd suggest. I would suggest the mamba, though, because that was the point in the field where things were getting very intense. I think first thought, best thought from Brian there.
Identifying bits of debris on the track with Brian and Adam. There we go. So safety car is out, very wise, because if a car runs over that and cuts the tyre, that can cause all sorts of problems. There is a very solid concrete wall, especially around turn 5, 6, turns around turns 12 and towards turn 1, and we need to think of safety. So that debris will be removed. I don't think it'll be long before we're back under green flag conditions.
There's clearly some damage. Now that might explain it.
Oh,
Marcus Finkelhock.
Him again.
Yes. Well, he's managed to get himself up to 14th place from 22nd on the grid, so he's clearly had a good run of it in the opening stages of the race, but at the cost of some carbon fibre and a call to the Audi Spurs department.
One feels as though the red mist that descended yesterday has still not ascended again. So Marcus Finkelhock, well, he's making good progress anyway, starting from the back of the pack. Ricardo Feller still down in 19th, so he'll be happy about that. Matthias Drudy did get past Daniel Juncker-Deyer up into 10th place, so that is very significant in terms of the championship. Of course, Daniel Juncker-Deyer, who is sharing with championship leader Raffaele Marciello. Now you can see the safety car is in on this lap. The lights are off on the car. It means that it will be Nicky Katzberg who determines the pace. This is the moment. Anyone want an Audi front grille? It's out there on turn 7 somewhere, I think. The bits of car have now been retrieved. Safety car lights are off, and it is Katzberg who determines the pace. He will want to catch Sven Muller napping and open up as big a gap as possible. Muller will see this as his great opportunity to pick up a slipstream along the pit straight and get past, but Christopher Mies has got ideas on that as well. You can see Mies ducking to the inside, goes back high on the track is Nicky Katzberg, who leads the way, and he's got a reasonable gap. He's far enough ahead of Sven Muller not to be challenged for that position. Ayhan Guven also going low into the corner. It looks like no change at the moment. Looking back at Christopher Haase from the perspective of Ayhan Guven. Haase, who is running in 6th place. Sven Muller, well, he's not looking especially rapid through those first couple of corners.
No, Christopher Mies and Jack Aitken giving him a lot to think about as we go back to green flag conditions. There's a bit of a gap back to 5th place. Ayhan Guven, who is in his very first race weekend here at the Lausitzring. I gather he didn't get too many laps in on Thursday and Friday either. So he's running on limited experience, and he's running with the 28 car for company. Christopher Haase through into 5th place. The first ever ADAC GT Masters champion, showing one of this year's title contenders how it's done.
So that is significant. Remember, Ayhan Guven is carrying an extra 20 kilos in what he did yesterday. The success penalty, that'll teach you to win races, won't it? And doesn't have quite the grunt that he might have done yesterday as a result of that. The rest of the cars coming through, but it is still Katzberg who's pulled up that lead. But Christopher Haase, man on a move as he takes up that 5th place. Next up the road from him is Jack Aitken. He might struggle to get past him too quickly. He's got to catch him first. The first 4 cars have broken away a little as we ride on board with Dennis Marshall, and we look ahead at Iron Changuven.
Top 4 then firmly breaking away after the first lap back under green flag conditions. Haase may try and go and join them. He is at the wheel of Jolene, one of 3 Land Motorsport Audis. They've named all of them, don't you know? The number 1 car's Valerie, the number 29 is Peggy Sue.
There are so many jokes and none of them repeatable. We're riding now with Jules Gounon. So Gounon in 8th place. He, coming into this weekend, was 2nd in the championship along with his teammate Fabian Schiller. He's dropped down to 3rd as a result of a bad day yesterday. We saw Jules Gounon actually spinning yesterday, and I can't remember the last time I saw him spinning in a car. But today hasn't been any more successful, really. P8 is not where he wants to be. He wants to be challenged for a podium and challenging for a win. He's got a lot of work to do to make his way forwards in this race, but there is a long way to go. We've still got well over 45 minutes of this race plus 1 lap. At the moment, Iron Changuven, with that extra 20 kilos, looks to be something of a cork in the bottle, and you wonder whether that success penalty is hindering him quite a lot.
He's just being pursued at the moment by Dennis Marshall, who was so good in the qualifying session today. He wasn't quite there when it counted at the end of the session, but for a long time, he was the form man out on the circuit in the 27 Rutronic Audi. Here's a replay of Christopher Haase getting around Iron Changuven at turn 7 just under 2 laps ago. To your point, Brian, yes, absolutely. I think that Porsche is being hindered by the ballast.
I've just seen that Marcus Winkelhock is dropping down the timing screen, so he's had some drama somewhere. Also, Jan Marszałkowski, we'll keep an eye on that. It might just be that he's gone out wide and lost a position, but the rest of the cars continue. We have all 22 cars still running. Marco Mappelli had made it past Winkelhock as the last one, and he is up to 15th place. There are challenges for position up and down the grid. The number 33 of Matthias Drudi has Luca Engstler for company. Luca Engstler, who makes his debut in ADAC GT Masters in 2022, the reigning ADAC TCR Germany champion, has taken to this like the proverbial duck to water, and has done very well as he challenges with Matthias Drudi. Now, one of the yellow mambas going very wide, that was Daniel Juncadella, picking up a little bit of dirt, but still carrying on. But Juncadella driving the wheels off that Mercedes, trying so hard. 11th place. Raffaele Marciello will not be happy about that. He wants to be fighting at the front. Remind you, he is the championship leader. He needs to be in front of Iron Changuven especially.
Yes, it wasn't exactly a stellar day's work from Raffaele Marciello yesterday either. Qualified on the fringes of the top 10. Juncadella could only manage 13th today on the qualifying grid. Let's see what he can do. Can he get it into the top 10? Certainly. He's right behind Luca Engstler at this stage, but the Mamba Manfilter Team Landgraf crew are going to be really doing the maths, I think, in the back of the garage to see where they're going to be relevant to that man, Iron Changuven, and indeed Christian Engelhardt by the end of the race. Engelhardt, though, under this pressure from Dennis Marshall. And of course, when you've got a pack of cars like this behind you, if you lose one place, you're at risk of losing 3 or 4 in the next couple of corners.
Yes, we've seen that happen many times as well. Nicky Katzberg has built up a bit of a gap at the front, over a second. So the BMW is handling things very well indeed. Sven Muller continues to hold on to 2nd place. He's about 4 tenths ahead of Christopher Mies, who's in 3rd. The view from Jules Gounon, he will be very frustrated down in 8th place, trying to find that route past Dennis Marshall. He continues through some great shots as they head up onto the tri-oval and back out onto the pit straight. Here come the cars picking up slipstreams as they head towards turn 1. Doesn't look like anybody is challenging for position at the moment. That may well change. Of course, this race is not about just going flat out the whole distance. It might be a sprint, but the tyres have got to go the distance as well. And it may be that drivers have got to get to the pit stop strategic pit stop, when to come in, when to get the car back out onto open track, and hopefully make up some places as a result.
It was interesting actually talking to some of the drivers, including Ben Green, earlier today. Obviously the BOP here in GT Masters is very much what you would find in SRO competition as well. There's a lot of unity between the two championships as to how that is organised. But of course it is a different kettle of fish here, because unlike an hour-long race in, say, GT World Challenge Sprint Cup, these tyres have to go the full hour, and that is a complicating factor, and some cars are better than others at making the tyres last.
But riding on board with Ben Green. Ahead of him is Norbert Siedler, who's having a good race, and he is challenging Daniel Juncadella. So the yellow Mamba looks to be under threat from the Audi behind. And Norbert Siedler, a great driver, but not one who has been challenging for wins this year. So quite significant that Daniel Juncadella looks to be struggling a little bit for pace at the moment. That Audi, to also Ben Green, who's behind. There's Frank Pereira there as well. Frank Pereira, he's always there somewhere along the way, and he's looking ready to pounce as well. Keep an eye on that particular battle, because it looks to me like Daniel Juncadella is struggling a little bit for pace.
Yes, it does seem as though he is not quite hooking up. Luca Engsler is getting away from him. The gap now out over a second between Engsler in 10th and Juncadella in 11th, where previously it was just 6/10. Marginal, yes, but important also, yes, especially when you've got Norbert Siedler and indeed Ben Green chasing you down. Green having a little speculative look to the inside at turn 6, the routine showing of the nose. But with these young drivers, you never know whether the routine showing of the nose might become a mighty lunge.
Whilst we've been following this in the lead, Nicky Gatsberg's gap has reduced. Well, Sven Muller has reduced the gap to Nicky Gatsberg to about 0.8 of a second. So that battle is not over by any stretch of the imagination. But this is the one that is enthralling us at the moment. The 48 Yellow Mamba is in 11th place with Daniel Juncadella at the wheel, followed by Norbert Siedler and Ben Green. Now you can see him adjusting brake balance as he goes into the corner. Daniel Juncadella trying to find a little bit something extra to keep that Yellow Mamba in the top 11, and he's looking under threat, continuing to look under threat. And so is our leader, as I think that Sven Muller, no, well, he's opened up about another 10th, so that's that headline out the window. Gatsberg has just stretched it again. Sven Muller 9/10 behind, ahead of Christopher Mies.
Although interestingly, all of that gap was gained in the first sector. The Porsche still strong in sectors 2 and 3, so whether it was just an off lap for Sven Muller, we'll have to wait and see. The steely-eyed focus of Ben Green as Marcus Winkelhock comes into pit lane. The car collection Audi has been looking second-hand for a while and might end up in the garage a little early.
Back on the naughty step for Marcus Winkelhock then. So looks like his race is over. We were looking at Ben Green on board just now, and you could see the determination in his eyes. You mentioned this morning he seemed a bit subdued. I just feel, looking at it now, that he has really got the bit between his teeth, and he really wants to prove a point. He is looking very eager in that BMW, but behind him, Frank Pereira is also challenging. So if Ben Green tries to make a move on Norbert Siedler, he might just lose a position to Frank Pereira, as Marcus Winkelhock, an absolute legend in all sorts of motor racing, of course a one-time Formula 1 driver, comes from the car, and he walks away disconsolately, seat in hand, and probably going to the back of the garage to just try and forget all about Lausitzring and focus on Sachsenring.
A driver that knows what it feels like to be at the sharp end of a race. He hasn't achieved that in GT Masters for a little while. I get the feeling the frustration could be growing. Ian Chan-Guven then, not at the sharp end at the moment, but leading quite the train of cars, isn't he? Doing a great defensive job here. Guven didn't quite have the raw pace compared to Christian Engelhardt yesterday. It'll be interesting to see quite how Engelhardt does with the 20 kilos of ballast on board after the pit window. Of course, the pit window opening in just over 5 minutes' time.
So while we wait for that pit window to open, just to summarise, it's Nicky Gatsberg who leads from Sven Muller by just over a second. Then it's Christopher Mies, Jack Aitken, Christopher Haase, and then Ian Chan-Guven, who we are riding on board with now. Looking back at Dennis Marchal, Jules Gounon, Matthias Drudy in the 9th, and Luca Engsler rounding out the top 10. And that is a great shot as we ride, and that is with Ian Chan-Guven, and you can see on the little inset at the side that he is weaving away at the wheel, but he's having to drive very defensively to stop that Audi getting past.
It's a 5-car train for the lead now, incidentally. Christopher Haase has firmly joined the back of Jack Aitken, was actually hustling Aitken through turn 10 and 11 on that lap. So Haase seems to be very, very much in the groove today. We'll see how Salmon Vega picks up that baton a little later on in the race. I was intrigued talking to Christopher Mies this morning. We spoke about changing the brake balance. In the case of Christopher, at least, he says, well, no, actually, I don't change the brake bias at all. I just changed the ABS setting corner on corner, which I didn't realise was quite how they did it. Maybe that's an Audi thing. Maybe that's a Mies thing. I don't know, but he told the commentator he must know it's going to go out on air. That is what Christopher Mies does. Can't argue. The man's probably done more miles in an Audi R8 GT3 car than anyone else on the planet. And look at the form he's got at the moment. They're in 3rd place, hauling the #1 car back to where it should be.
It's all I do, just to turn the flipping wheel round the corner and make sure it points in the right direction. So they are better than me, that's for sure. Aitken Guven under pressure. Dennis Marshall sailing up the inside. Guven coming back. There's a little bit of a bounce as the two cars get together, but Dennis Marshall stealing away 6th place from Aitken Guven. Guven carrying that success penalty. Is he going to have anything that he can bring back to the Audi? He's not dropping back that quickly, so maybe Aitken Guven is going to challenge, but if he does, Jules Gounon is ready to pounce. Gounon lining up Aitken Guven. Onto the pit straight they come. This is the view from Aitken Guven, from Jules Gounon. Aitken Guven ahead of him, and ahead of him is Dennis Marshall into the corner. Guven trying to come back at Marshall. Marshall saying, no, not today, thank you very much. Now, here comes Jules Gounon and Aitken Guven. He has to back out of it and almost back into the hands of Matthias Trudy.
Matthias Trudy trying to find a way around Jules Gounon here. Can he get the inside for T5? Not quite. He's squeezed out. Luca Engstler making contact there with Trudy. Engstler just about holds on to it and gains a position for his trouble. Engstler up to 9th place.
Brilliant stuff here. Fighting all the way through. It's Marshall in 6th place, and he has left Guven behind in his wake. Jules Gounon behind him. Here come the rest of the cars. Daniel Juncker still holding on to that 11th place, so he will be frustrated by that, although it does look like he's joining the back of that queue. But look how quickly Dennis Marshall left Aitken Guven behind. He really has pulled away incredibly quickly, so that Porsche was most certainly holding him up. You have a look at a replay here, and I think there might have been a little bit of a love tap between them at one point. You can see Guven just coming back, a little bit of vibration, and they run side by side. But it was Dennis Marshall who took that position away. This is the view from Jules Gounon. He has the best view in the house of this battle, and he wanted to get involved. Good, clean racing from these drivers. Excellent stuff. And look how close to the wall the Lamborghini gets. Does he touch the wall? Well, not quite. I don't know whether he brushed it or not. It was very close.
There was a little bit of a stroke of the paintbrush there from Mattia Drudi, from Marco Mappelli there in the Paul Motorsports Lamborghini. There is the Audi battle, though, between the 33 and the 15. Luca Engstler moving up to 9th place for Retronic. Everything coming up Retronic Racing at the moment. Marshall up into 6th place. Engstler up into 9th. Elsewhere in the 4-ring camp, let's see if Christopher Mies can challenge Sven Muller.
Well, it looks like he's got him lined up. Now, we are about a minute away from the pit window opening. This is going to be strategically very important, because if the Montplast by Land Motorsport team feel that Christopher Mies can't make a good, clean pass on the Allied Racing Porsche in front, they may choose to bring him in early and get him back out on open track. That's, of course, as long as Sven Muller doesn't pit early himself. So there'll be a lot of strategy here. It might be the cars pit early in the window, it might be the cars pit late in the window to try and make progress. Nicky Katzberg leading the way. I would suggest that he is going to be staying out quite late in the pit window. He's got a clear track in front of him. He's a vastly experienced driver, and he is well ahead of that battle for 2nd, 3rd and 4th place. Into turn 1 we come. There is Iron Changuven carrying that extra weight. There is Jules Gounon behind him, and Luca Engstler lined up as well, and Matthias Drudi, and that looks like it's ready to explode anytime soon. Just to remind you what that graphic means on the corner of your screen, race laps for Wales in Africa. For every lap completed by a car and the ADAC GT Masters, €4 is donated to the BWT and to the ADAC GT Masters BWT water mission. B-Water mission got there in the end, and they are providing clean drinking water for many rural areas of the Gambia and Tanzania, and it's a wonderful cause. Last year, oh, there goes the camera.
I said that would happen on Twitter. It's finally happened.
Last year, we raised nearly over 60 grand for that cause, and it is a wonderful cause indeed. A great initiative from the GT Masters, the ADAC. You saw the camera go flying. You can also see the pit window is open. So there is a grey P next to the name of the driver. That grey P will go dark once they go into the pits. If it goes red, it means the driver has gone below the minimum pit stop time, which is 65 seconds. Here come the first stoppers. Luca Engstler is in. Jan Marszałkowski is in. This minimum pit stop time from pit entry to pit exit of 65 seconds is critical. If they go below it, even by a tenth, they will pick up a penalty. So a heavily regulated pit stop. Only 2 mechanics allowed to work on the car at any one time, and it adds a bit of spice to the racing.
It does, rather. One team that managed to absolutely ace it yesterday was the 22 Allied Racing Porsche crew. They hit 65 seconds on the nose yesterday. 0.0 was the margin of between success and failure in terms of getting the right pit stop length. We'll see when they come in. They used an early pit stop to their advantage last time at the Nürburgring. A mighty undercut, albeit in different circumstances. Ricardo Feller off track there as he challenges Franck Pereira. Pereira gets a tag from the rear there by Ricardo Feller. Does everyone stay on track miraculously? Yes.
Ricardo Feller has definitely got the gloves off this weekend, hasn't he? He likes to get involved, and Ricardo Feller continues off into the pit lane. The rest of the cars continue on their way. Pit's window is open, so we've only had 2 stoppers up until now, but here come more cars into the pits. So that's V-Sofa in the next one.
V-Sofa in the pits. I was just going to say, my apologies, it was V-Sofa that got the rear end there from Ricardo Feller. One day I'll learn which Emil Frey car has the black bonnet, which one has the white. Not today, though, evidently. The battle for second place pressing on then. Only 2 cars pitting this time. Seems like everyone is favouring either a nice democratic middle ground, 5 minutes into the window, exactly half an hour each, or perhaps some of them pushing till the end of the stint.
Look at this fight for second place. Sven Muller is holding on for all he's worth from Christopher Mies. Mies will be handing over to Tim Zimmerman shortly. Muller who will be handing over to Joel Sturm. And Christopher Mies would like to get in front of the Allied Racing Porsche before he hands it over. Clearly that is the case. Behind them, Jack Aitken ready to get involved. His teammate Albert Costa Balboa is not scared to get stuck in. Look at Christopher Haase, also in 5th place. He'll be handing over to Salmon Ovega, who is getting better and better every time we see him. It was very impressive for much of the race yesterday, and he'll be taking control of that green and black Audi. Still, they stay out at the moment. Nobody else into the pits. A lot of drivers going quite late into the window.
Yes, as I was saying, I'm not sure whether they're just going to be very democratic and split the race exactly down the middle, or whether everyone's feeling a bit ungenerous and wanting to go to the full 35. 2 cars in once again this time. That is Franck Pereira. That is the black-bonneted car. I've got it. Jules Gounon, meanwhile, pressuring Iron Changuven. He's going to worry about Matthias Drudi behind as well.
So that's the 7th place that Iron Changuven is running at the moment. That success penalty really does look to be affecting them hard today. Jules Gounon looks to the inside, looks to the outside. As already mentioned, Matthias Drudi is there ready to pounce, as is Daniel Yugadair. He's up into 10th place as a result of pit stops so far, and I wonder whether they're going to bring him in soon and get Raffaele Marciello in. But finally, Gounon muscles his way past Gounon, past Iron Changuven, and as suspected, almost opens the door for the rest of the cars to come through. So now Matthias Drudi also monstering Iron Changuven. So, the view back from Iron Guven. This is Matthias Drudy. He looks to the inside, then to the outside. Look how quickly Jules Gounon has pulled away from that Porsche.
Yeah, Guven really struggling today. He's in the deep water. I wonder how long they're going to keep him out there. He does at least one more lap. Perhaps wisely, Matthias Drudy says, okay, no, I'm getting out of this queue, and hands over the 33 car to Thierry Vermeulen in the pits.
So into the pits he comes. Gounon still out on track. Iron Guven still there behind in the 8th place. The rest of the cars queued up behind Iron Guven, and I wonder whether we're going to see a challenge from Daniel Juncadella before he comes into the pits. Here's a replay, and Gounon sees that gap and then runs him out nice and wide to make sure he can't come back at him. There's an experienced pilot, Jules Gounon. A great move from him. Looking back from Iron Guven, that was the view, and that was the depressing sight for Guven of the Mercedes disappearing off into the distance. I should think Guven will be pleased when this race is over. Almost lets Matthias Drudy through as well, but managed to shut the door. Here come our race leaders. Still, none of them have pitted yet. It's Nicky Katzberg, 1.3 seconds ahead of Sven Muller and Christopher Mies, with Jack Aitken also hanging in there in 4th place, ahead of Christopher Haase. Dennis Marshall, who is looking good. Now Jules Gounon into 7th ahead of Iron Guven. Matthias Drudy into the pits, as is Puhaka, who is handing over to Ezequiel Perez-Campang in the Mad Panda. And this is the view from Ben Green.
Yeah, Ben Green still in the midst of battle here, just on the fringes of the top 10 for now, but we'll see where he comes out later on. This is among the pit stop cars. They're having a scrap. Oh, that was a nasty clunk, wasn't it? The 8 car of Marvin Dienst having a good scrap there with Frankie Bird. Bird losing a position there to Dienst, who has some experience from earlier on today, qualifying in Prototype Cup Germany. Guven in.
So, Iron Guven will be handing over to Christian Engelhardt. There's also Norbert Siedler there. He'll be handing over to Simon Riker. And also in there is Ricardo Feller. He's going to need a lie down. He's handing over to Yusuf Ovega. Into the pit stop they come, stopping on the marks. And this is a well-rehearsed routine as Christian Engelhardt helps Iron Guven out of the car. You can see there's a great height difference between them, which means they have to have a seat insert that is in for Iron Guven, taken out so that Christian Engelhardt can get in. Now the outgoing driver helps the incoming driver to get buckled up, plugged in, get the straps done up. Those are the 2 mechanics that are allowed to work on the car. Ricardo Feller does not look particularly ecstatic. Head down as he walks away from the car. We're looking at a replay of drama out on turn 12. And it looks like there is a Lamborghini and a Mercedes running side by side, and they kept it out of the wall. Look at this, though. It's a traffic jam.
Yeah, Costa Lapalainen getting bullied out of it there, wasn't he, rather? That was what led to that move from Marvin Dienst. The top 6 come across the line again, meanwhile. Now, do they all stay out this time? I'm curious to see that. This is a scrap among those who have already pitted, but the top 6 are just running together, and finally 2 of them have pitted. Muller and Marshall from the sharp end of the order have come in. Meanwhile, Dienst is on the warpath, isn't he? Delina, the next target.
Marvin Dienst doesn't look like he's been away from GT Masters for very long at all. He's come back into this and has absolutely carried on from where he left off a couple of years ago. So Marvin Dienst in the pink Mercedes ahead of the dynamic guesting Porsche, the number 11 cars that has Adrian Delina at the wheel. Behind them is Frankie Bird. Right, this is the car that was running in 2nd place. And now Sven Muller hands over to Joel Sturm. The oncoming Storm rejoins the track. Out of the pit lane he comes, being careful to keep below that minimum pit stop time. They have a race logic device on the dashboard, so Sturm can see exactly when he has to hit the accelerator. He can't really be backing off in the pit lane. We saw that with this man last time out at the Nürburgring. Boy, was that controversial. Raffaele Marciello takes over from Daniel Juncadella, the championship leader, back out onto the track. He is going to be pushing as he tries to work his way forwards. Ben Green has handed over to Niklas Cruton as well. Pit window is going to be closing in just a few seconds as we look back at Christian Engelhardt.
And I think that there's been an error down at Schubert Motorsport, because with 30 seconds of the window left to go, Nicky Katzberg has just crossed the line again.
No.
He's not going to get back into the pit in time to serve the stop within the window.
And we've seen that before. That will be an absolute slam dunk drive-through penalty. Nicky Katzberg, who was looking to dominate this race along with Jesse Krohn, his co-driver, he's missed the pit window. And he is going to lose the lead of this race, surely, with a penalty.
I'm not even convinced that's the first time we've seen that happen. I think that happened at Zandvoort as well, with the very same car. Goodness me, what an error. You'd think it would be rudimentary. Meanwhile, Christian Engelhardt, in all of this, has come out behind Raffaele Marciello. Marciello just about got out ahead of him. And there's the scrum for what will be the lead. Tim Zimmermann rejoining the race. Where does this Joel Stern car come out relevant to them? Relative to them.
Relative to them, indeed. Easy for you to say. There's Joe Stern. Well, the answer is not especially well, because the number one car, Tim Zimmermann, is going to be the net leader of this race, because a penalty for Nicky Katzberg is guaranteed, and it won't be a minor penalty either. Missing the pit window, the stewards do not take kindly to that. It will be Tim Zimmermann from Albert Costa Balboa looking for a second place in this weekend. There is the number 22 car caught up behind the Lamborghini. Here comes Nicky Katzberg. Better late than never, but penalty incoming.
Yeah, I can't believe it. I double-checked the screen. I saw on the... we have a track map here that shows us where all the cars are. I saw it on the track map going around turn 12. I went, surely not. I got out of my seat. I saw the car cross the line, and I just kind of breathed a sigh of discontentment for Nicky Katzberg. After such a good qualifying, he slams the door.
He knows.
You can see how angry he is. He absolutely knows. And Jesse Krohn, no matter where he rejoins the race, I imagine he's not seen the last of the pit lane.
We saw this at the Red Bull Ring when Denis Bulatov in the GT4 race actually got a 2-minute stop-and-go penalty as a result of missing the pit window. That is the kind of penalty you're looking at. I think there is an incoming penalty for the Schubert Motorsport BMW that will see him drop potentially out of the points. That is the level of penalty that might be incoming. One thing is for sure, Tim Zimmermann is in the box seats, as indeed is Albert Costa Balboa, Joel Sturm, Yusuf Vega. Now, what a great drive. Now, Salman Vega, beg your pardon, brother of Yusuf, but what a great drive from the youngest driver in the field. Up into 4th place ahead of Kim Louis Schramm and Patrick Niederhauser. Jesse Krohn is in 7th, and then Fabian Schiller, Raffaele Marciello down in 9th place ahead of Max Paul.
Tim Zimmermann with quite a comfortable lead out there at the moment at the sharp end of the order. There's the car that's causing all the controversy at the moment. Jesse Krohn under quite the microscope at the moment. Unfortunately, the investigation that we've seen on screen is rather slam dunk. It is, though, a 1.5 second gap between Zimmermann and Costa Balboa at the front. It's more than that, actually, looking at it on screen.
They know.
Yeah, the calculator's just been thrown into the incinerator.
A team as experienced as Schubert Motorsport, I mean, it's a rookie error, and they will be absolutely kicking themselves. They know what is coming. They know that that car there has taken over the lead and is going to stay there, because Jesse Krohn is not going to stay in the lead position once that penalty has been served. Just looking at our race laps of Worlds in Africa while we break away briefly, 32 grand is the total so far this season. The ADAC doing a great job in looking at the climate. Also, the ADAC, along with Shell, have developed the Blue Gasoline 98 GT Masters fuel, which consists of 50% renewable components. It's a new innovative fuel. We're all about looking after the planet as we enjoy our racing. We're on board with Kim Louis Schramm. Wham, bam, thank you, Schramm. He's trying to get through past Salman Vega.
Yes, he's trying very, very hard indeed, but that's so much easier said than done. The Retronic team will be willing him on, but willing him to keep the car in one piece as well. Lunges like that aren't often conducive to doing so. Patrick Niederhauser in the sister Retronic machine also looking to get involved. He's there in 6th place.
Interestingly, after the pit stop window, Jesse Krohn has dropped back into 7th place. So despite the fact they had that late stop, The pit hasn't worked out well. I wonder if they've just lost their mojo a little bit, to be quite honest, because they know that they are not going to get anywhere near a podium today. So it's Tim Zimmermann who's taken over the lead of the race from Albert Costa Balboa and Joel Sturm. And that has completely thrown the proverbial cat amongst the proverbial pigeons. We ride on board with Kim Louis Schramm, the number 27 car, in 5th place. This has the potential of being one of their best results of the season. They got a 2nd, and that was at Zandvoort, but certainly at the sharp end of the grid. But coming under pressure from the 2019 champion, Patrick Niederhauser. 3 Audis glued together, 4th, 5th and 6th.
Yeah, plenty of Audis at the sharp end of the order, including in the prime position. Tim Zimmermann leading the way for Land Motorsports at the moment. If he can hold on, that is win number 50 in GT Masters for Audi. And a car piloted by Christopher Mies taking the 50th win. Don't want to put the jinx on it, but that does feel right.
It feels very poetic, doesn't it? The Audi very strong here. 2.8 seconds is the gap between Zimmermann and Albert Costa Balboa. Now, Albert is a determined driver, but he is carrying an extra 10 kilos as a result of that 2nd place yesterday. So that Lamborghini will not be quite as rapid as he would like it to be. And so he is struggling to keep Zimmermann within range. He might have Joel Sturm. And here we go, a stop-and-go time penalty of 49 seconds. That is going to put Nicky Katzberg and Jesse Krohn to the back of the pack. That is a monstrous penalty for missing the pit stop window. Disaster for Schubert Motorsport.
If you're wondering why they've picked a number like 49, I think that's the exact amount of time they missed the window by, hence a 49-second stop-go. That is huge. That will put them down to last. That will put them the better part of a lap down, and it will end this car's day in all but literal terms.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised if they just park it up anyway after that. That is such an error when you look at what Nicky Katzberg did in qualifying, that epic pole position that he scored, and it was looking so good, and to lose it on a strategic error like that, well, I mean, it is just utter disaster for the team. There is still another Schubert Motorsport car in the race. It's Nicholas Cruton, currently in 12th. Well, that will soon be 11th as a result of the penalty that is incoming to the sister car. The car that's leading the way, though, Tim Zimmermann, has come out of all of it. There is Christopher Mies looking on, and all of his hard work has been handed over to Tim Zimmermann, and both of them doing an epic job. Tim Zimmermann, who has been getting better and better. We saw in Porsche Carrera Cup Germany just a couple of years ago, moved across to GT Masters, has yet to finish on the podium this year, along with Christopher Mies. Christopher Mies, the defending champion in GT Masters, will be very keen to get back on the top step, a place that he's probably been missing.
Yeah, exactly right. We said earlier on the number 1 car back where it should be, with Mies challenging for podium positions earlier on. The tide has turned in their favour evermore now with a fairly comfortable lead. Must be said, Costa Balboa, he's not too far behind. He's a little way ahead of Joel Sturm, but he's not really challenging Zimmermann as I'd anticipated.
There's quite a scrum behind him as well, isn't there? Samuel Vega, Kim Louis Schramm, Patrick Niederhauser are all in there fighting. The Audi certainly looking like the weapon of choice at the moment. It's Audi from Lamborghini from Porsche, then 3 Audis together before we reach the BMW of Jesse Krohn, which is due to have that drive-through penalty. But the Tim Zimmermann Audi looking very dialed in here at the Lausitzring. This is race 10 of a 14-race season for the ADAC GT Masters. After this, it's the penultimate round at the undulating Sachsenring. The championship is still wide open because Raffaele Marciello, who leads the points, is down in 9th place. The 2nd place car in the championship, the number 91 car of Christian Eckhardt, is in 11th. And the Jules Gounod Fabian Schiller car is in 8th. So the points very much tight as we head into the penultimate round, if things stay as they are now.
BMW in, Jesse Krohn in to serve the stop-and-go time penalty now. So that promotes Fabian Schiller up to 7th place there in the back of shots in the number 4 Drago ZVO Mercedes. The longest drive of Jesse Krohn's life, I imagine, and that 49 seconds is going to feel like 49 minutes, a good half of football he's going to spend in his own head waiting to get back out onto the circuit.
I'd say it's the longest drive of his life. It'll be the longest stop-and-go penalty of his life, and yeah, as we suspected, expected. They're like, well, there's little point in risking damaging the car. Now, who is this into the pits? It is Frankie Bird. So the other of the yellow Mambas, that is not a scheduled stop. It looks like he might have a problem. It's not a penalty. So the 84 car, he took over from Elias Seppänen. This duo of drivers who have been getting so much better with every race. At Oschersleben, it was a baptism of fire, but they came so close to a podium at the Nürburgring last time out. But looks like a mechanical issue, and this is going to tell us what it was. He went wide onto the gravel, and it looks like he's done a bit of damage to that Mercedes AMG. They're made to drive along the tarmac, not fly through the air. And that yellow Mamba looks to be retiring to the garage.
Nothing is going to shake up the electrics and the mechanicals, quite like trying to replicate a Duke of Hazzard's jump in a GT3 Mercedes. That was not a comfortable ride, I'm sure. A big shame that their race has ended in that manner. The other Mamba is in 8th place. That's Raffaele Marciello. But here comes the Rutronic racing car of Niederhauser. It's Rutronic warfare, and it is Niederhauser that comes out on top.
So Kim Louis Schramm giving way to Patrick Niederhauser. We are into the last quarter of this race, and it is still all to play for. 3.426 seconds is the gap between first and second, but there is an awful lot happening behind. It's Albert Costa Balboa in second, looking for his second of the weekend in the second race. We look at a replay of Niederhauser and Schramm going at it, hammer and tongs, and there is the view from Schramm as he sees Niederhauser going sailing past.
I really like how you described that. Could I have some seconds?
Not like you have seconds.
I couldn't help it. Costa Balboa, incidentally, still gaining the advantage over Joel Sturm. 1-1 firmly in the commentary box. Let's see if it can be a double podium, of course, for Land Motorsport. Zimmerman doing a good job out front. Salmano Vega, who, to your point, the youngest man on the grid, is looking solid there in 4th place. Can he challenge Sturm?
He was so disappointed yesterday because he had made up so many places, and then in those horrible slippery conditions dropped the ball a little and had a non-score. But Salmano Vega looking for what will be his best result of the season if he can bring it home in 4th place. Now look at this, the fight between Fabian Schiller and Raffaele Marciello. This is personal because this is the championship. 3rd in the championship, leading 1st in the championship. Raffaele Marciello, he is impatient. He knows nothing other than podium finishes. Anything less than the top step is a fail in his books. And he is trying to monster Fabian Schiller into a mistake. They are in identical cars. Identical brands anyway. Marciello, driver with so much experience. Fabian Schiller, not quite so much, but doing a good job holding off the yellow Mamba. And behind them, Max Paul, local driver who took his first podium yesterday in the race here, looking to pounce if these two cars get together. The fight for 7th place continues.
And into the pits comes Ezequiel Perez Companc. I'm very much hoping that this isn't a further engine issues after losing an engine in practice on Friday. Looks like this car is going no further. Of course, an important point for Marciello, as annoyed as he'll be with this non-podium finish, as you say. I've seen him nearly leave 3rd place trophies in a airport lounge before. He discards the ones that aren't victories. But what I will say is that he is ahead of Christian Engelhardt and Ian Changuven on the circuit, so that will help his championship chances. And in fact, if he can get past that number 4 Mercedes ahead of him, he's beating both of his foremost championship rivals.
If he's leaving trophies behind at the airport, I'm going on the same flight as him, I tell you. So, looking like a dodgy stalker. Right, there it is, the 22 car, Joel Sturm. This is the fight for the last of the podium positions. It is Joel Sturm in 3rd, Salmano Vega. This guy is getting better and better. 2 drivers that have come into GT Masters this year, 2 young drivers. The oncoming storm is currently defending from Salmano Vega, who is looking very eager. The wise old Patrick Niederhauser, the 2019 champion, is there as well. Audi fighting Audi, but there's a Porsche in front of them.
They say that storm chasing is a young man's game. Rather appropriate that Salmano Vega is hunting down Joel Sturm then for third position. I'm sure that the Land Motorsports garage right now is on fire as they try and will on their young man from inside the garage. He's got to be careful though, because Niederhauser, a widely experienced GT racer, waits in the wings for Rutronic Racing, and I would not want to be Joel Sturm right now.
He is waiting to pounce, is Patrick Niederhauser. The Allied Racing boss is Jan Kasperlik, an absolute legend. He runs the team, and he has approached the GT Masters with a refreshing new attitude. He wants to do things differently. He says, I'm going to go my own way. If you do the same as everybody else, you're only ever going to come second. And that mentality has seen them featuring on the podium several times this year with Joel Sturm and Sven Muller. But at the moment, having to fight hard because Salmano Vega has got a whiff of his first ever podium. He has the master, Christopher Haase, as his mentor. He's taken over from him all the hard work that Haase did, and now he looks to the inside of the Allied Racing Porsche. He still can't find a spot through, but they will be through onto the pit straight before too long. Can it be that Salmano Vega will be able to pick up a slipstream and get past? Or will Patrick Niederhauser mug both of them? Kim Louis Schramm closing in on the battle as well.
Great scrap this, the three Audis making themselves known to Joel Sturm in the Porsche from Allied Racing. Sturm has been great value for money all year. He's done a lot of diving. Salmano Vega almost setting himself up for a dive all of his own on Joel Sturm. Does he get a good run out of turn 11 for my money? Yes, he very much does.
He looks to the outside as they come out onto 12 and along to the pit straight. This is the opportunity. Salmano Vega, surely the young charger, is going to try and take it, but Joel Sturm, he does not give up. He has been so impressive since joining this series. He holds on to that position. Salmano Vega practically pushing him into turn 1. Patrick Niederhauser now challenging Salmano Vega. Kim Louis Schramm in the background as well. Patrick Niederhauser has the experience to get past the young driver in front of him, but Salmano Vega just placing the Audi exactly where it needs to be on the track.
Don't think anyone's in the background anymore. All four cars in the foreground of this scrap now as they head towards turn 6, and there goes Niederhauser having a little speculative look to the inside. We're flailing our limbs in this commentary box on behalf of Land Motorsport as they watch this scrap unfold. Great run out of turn 7 from Salmano Vega. Can he stay in the slipstream and challenge into turn 8?
Joel Sturm doing all that he can. I think Jan Kasperlik is watching from behind a pillar at the moment because the Allied Racing Porsche is coming under a triple attack from the cars behind him. 3 Audis lining up to try and get past. Salmano Vega has dropped back a bit there. Now Kim Louis Schramm closing in on this battle. He can smell the potential of even a podium here. Now Salmano Vega coming under pressure from Patrick Niederhauser. Just 8 minutes plus 1 lap of this race remaining. Onto the pit straight we come once again, and Sturm has broken free.
This is an absolutely fabulous race. We've been treated to 2 marvellous displays. One in the wet, one in the dry. There won't be a dry eye in the house if there's a collision here. Niederhauser looks to the inside and doesn't make the move on that occasion. He is an experienced racer. He knows when the move isn't on, and Niederhauser remains in 5th for now. This, though, is a critical battle further back between Schiller, Marchiello, and indeed Max Paul. Max Paul could play the spoiler, but Marchiello gets past Schiller and cements some more points in the championship over Schiller himself.
And don't write off for Christian Engelhardt, who's in the background in 10th place as well. He's looking to pounce, but that is very significant. Not as significant as this at the moment. This is a battle that is enthralling us. And of course, while they are all fighting over 3rd place, 1st and 2nd are disappearing off into the distance. It's 2.8 seconds between Tim Zimmerman and Albert Costa Balboa, and another 8 seconds back to this fight here that you're looking at. So this really is fighting over the last of the podium positions, but it could go to any one of these 4 cars. It's Joel Sturm winning this fight at the moment. Salmano Vega looks to have the bit between his teeth, but now he's having to defend from Patrick Niederhauser, who in turn is having to defend from Kim Louis Schramm.
What a great scrap this is. Schramm in the slipstream. Don't think he got the best run out of 11 into 12 on this occasion. But of course, they do pick up a lot of speed before they get to the braking zone for turn 1. Rutronic will be wincing, but I actually think that was choreographed. Niederhauser lifted off there, quite obviously. Kim Louis Schramm gifted 5th place.
Well, that's an interesting strategy, and I'd like to understand the thinking behind that. But Kim Louis Schramm certainly looked to be handed that position by Patrick Niederhauser from his teammate, fellow team driver. So maybe they think that Kim Louis Schramm could do something about Salmon Vega, who is in front. So we're looking again at that moment, and Niederhauser clearly lifting off.
Yes, I'm not quite sure of the logic behind it myself either. Perhaps they've just said, right, well, let Schramm have a go. If Niederhauser can't do it, let's see what Kim Louis can do. Engstler and Niederhauser have been competitive all year, so it's not as if there's much of a deficit between the two of them in championship standings or anything like that. Sturm very late on the brakes at turn 8 on that occasion, and that was rather wince-worthy. I thought he'd gone straight on there for a moment.
So the race continues as we look at this fight for 3rd place. Still Joe Sturm doing all that he can. He's had that Porsche in that position for what feels like an eternity. Yeah. Salmon Vega is getting fed up with the sight of Porsches. He wants to see open road in front of him. He can see that there is a potential podium and a potential trophy lying ahead of him. The thing that stands in the way is a green and blue Porsche, which is proving to be very stubborn to get past. Now, can Kim Louis Schramm close in on a Vega who's in front? Well, it doesn't look like he's doing it at the moment, and still the oncoming storm is holding off Salmon Ovega. They continue, and Ovega again lining him up, getting really close as they head up towards turn 6 and out onto the tri-oval. And still Joe Sturm holding on to that 3rd place. What can Salmon Vega do in the last, can you believe it, less than 4.5 minutes of this race plus 1 lap? Joe Sturm still holding on. I'm wondering if the tyres are a little bit shot on that Porsche as well, because he has been driving so hard defending. But now Salmon Vega again in that 4th place, putting the heat on.
Yeah, Vega looking lively at every single braking zone, riding on board in the little inset of screen there with Max Paul as well, who's all over the back of Raffaele Marciello. Don't really know where to look. There's so many exciting battles going on circuit. Salmon Vega with the youth and ambition looking for a way past Joel Sturm, but equally Max Paul, himself a very ambitious young man, could get in amongst it with the championship leader Marciello. 39 laps in the book for race leader Tim Zimmerman, Albert Costa Balboa in 2nd, then Joel Sturm. You can see the gaps there popping up on your screen. So the 1-2 looking pretty solid, unless there's something dramatic that happens in the next 3.5 minutes. The fight for 3rd is by no means over, though. We look further back once again. Fabian Schiller, Raffaele Marciello. This time it's personal. Max Paul, local driver, and he is still on a high from his 1st ever podium yesterday for Paul Motorsport. Behind them is the 2nd place in the championship, Christian Engelhardt, running 10th on the track at the moment. That Porsche with the success penalty, just to remind you, struggling a little bit for pace, will be quite pleased to dump that penalty in a hedge somewhere. Niederhauser has got back past Kim Louis Schramm out there on circuit. The number 15 Rutronic car is back through. Wonder what is going on down at Rutronic.
I mean, maybe Rutronic said, well, you have a go. And look at this, Salmon Vega goes to the inside of Joel Sturm. They make contact, and Salmon Vega off into the gravel trap. All that hard work, come on, keep the power on. The Montplas by Land Audi rejoins, but he's lost a whole load of places. He will be gutted about that. It was such a brave, maybe a slightly audacious move, but Joel Sturm holds on to that 3rd place.
He went for 3rd, he ends up in 9th. So unfortunate for Salmon Vega. That incident instantly under investigation, and Sturm very much being investigated now by Patrick Niederhauser. He retook 5th place on that lap, and then he was gifted 4th. Can he make it a podium?
Patrick Niederhauser and Luca Exer looking for their 2nd podium of the year. They got the year off to a great start with a 2nd place at Oschersleben. Now he's got a sniff of a podium. And Patrick Niederhauser, he is so experienced, a wise old pilot. Joel Sturm is going to have his work cut out to keep the Audi behind him for the next minute and 3/4 plus 1 lap. So Patrick Niederhauser knows the opportunity is there. Sturm goes to shut the door. The two cars get together, and Sturm goes straight on. There's bodywork that goes flying, and is there damage? There is damage to Niederhauser's car. There's smoke coming from it. Sturm is dropping because Kim Louis Schramm is through as well. So Patrick Niederhauser, the car is ailing. Surely he's not going to hold on to that position.
That tyre rub looks very dangerous indeed. Kim Louis Schramm up the inside and into 3rd place. They push on. Contact, further contact between Sturm and Niederhauser. Niederhauser ran over his own headlights a couple of corners ago, and now he's stuck in the gravel trap. Penultimate lap of the race is about to start. I don't think the drama's over though.
I think that this has been waiting to explode for some time. We also have a challenge for position. Raffaele Marciello past Fabian Schiller, and Max Paul also in there as well. So Fabian Schiller, who is 3rd in the championship, being overtaken by the championship leader and losing other places as well. Meanwhile, the fight for 3rd place, it's Kim Louis Schramm, and also damage to Joel Sturm. Smoke coming from the Porsche.
Yeah, that smoke has been there since the contact with Niederhauser down at turn 6. Not quite as severe as what was going on with the Patrick's car itself, but still looking less than A1. And there goes Marciello. That was a big dive. Not a successful one yet, but I fancy he's going to give it another go at turn 6.
The Sturm car is clearly ailing. He's going to struggle to get to the end, but suddenly Raffaele Marciello can see 4th place. And now Schramm's gone as well. Kim Louis Schramm's gone. Suddenly Marciello is into a podium position. How did that happen? Schramm's got a problem.
Yeah, and Sturm's fighting Marciello every inch of the way. They were side by side through turn 7. Sturm now under threat off camera from Schiller. Here we get a look at it now. Schiller getting up to Sturm's side. Here comes Max Paul as well. It's all kicking off here at the Lausitzring. Kim Louis Schramm is back up to speed. It seemed as though the engine just died for a second there.
What a time for the engine to die. Raffaele Marciello up into the podium position. There goes Joel Sturm. He spins in front of Christian Engelhardt. Engelhardt takes avoiding action.
Salvador Vega got into the side of one of the other cars as well. It's all kicked off. 4 cars having contact in one fell swoop. Sturm decides turn 11. What turn 11? He rejoins the race, and Christian Engelhardt is now involved in this as well. He's with Fabian Schiller. I make that for 4th place now. Yes, it is. Engelhardt up into 4th place.
We're into the final lap of the race. Tim Zimmerman, Albert Costa Balboa there in the distance somewhere. This is the fight. 3rd place, Marciello. Christian Engelhardt up into 4th. Fabian Schiller trying to come back. Max Paul, he still has an idea on the podium.
That Schramm in the background there, he's missed his braking zone at turn 1 and is doing a lap of the oval for reasons apparent only to him. The gap between the top 2 has come down. Costa Balboa has been pushing, but this man, Tim Zimmerman, just a few corners away from Audi's 50th win.
Zimmerman going deep into the corner there, giving everyone a little heart attack, especially in the Multiplus by Lag Garage. We are into the closing stages of what has been an extraordinary ending to this race. The stewards are going to be burning the midnight oil looking at this one. I dare say, as we see Sturm going off in the background, a little bit of rallycross. The car is ailing, and he really has got all sorts of problems. Across the finish line comes Tim Zimmerman to win race 10 of the season ahead of Albert Costa Balboa. What an extraordinary last few laps. Raffaele Marciello, you would not have had good odds on him getting a podium just 5 minutes ago. Raffaele Marciello into 3rd.
Yes, sorry, Raffaele Marciello on the fringes of the top 10 moments ago. Who's going to be in 5th place though? Because look at Max Paul. He's trying to get around Fabian Schiller. It's a drag race to the line in Schiller's favour, but that was very close indeed. That top 10 just decided, you know what, musical chairs in the last 5 minutes, and it was great entertainment. Sturm does cross the line, but he finishes 11th.
Wow. What an ending to the race.
Wow.
We just knew this was going to kick off, didn't we? Tim Zimmerman, well, he's just taken a first win in ADAC GT Masters, and that's not necessarily the headline, would you believe? Because Albert Costa Balboa 2nd, Marciello to 3rd, Engelhardt in 4th, Fabian Schiller with Jules Gounon in 5th, Max Paul, Marco Mapelli in 6th, Kim Louis Schramm, along with Dennis Marshall, are in 7th. 8th is the eventual finishing position for Patrick Niederhauser and Luca Engstler. That's quite a good recovery. 9th place for Marvin Dietz and Jan Marszalkowski. So that is a result for them as they pick up some points. And 10th place to a BMW, Niklas Kruten and Ben Green, rounding out the top 10. I would say that is all subject to confirmation. Once the stewards have had a good look at some videos, it might be about Wednesday by the time we get a result.
Yes, well, here's what triggered this crazy final few minutes of the race. It was a mighty move, an ambitious move from Samuel Vega, who incidentally never took the checkered flag after all of this ultimately. And Vega went off circuit. That left the door open to this man, Patrick Niederhauser. Well, it wasn't actually open, but he kicked it down, lost his headlight in the process, and then it only got worse from there. This contact, as you see, triggered many other incidents to follow. Kim Louis Schramm, of course, got himself up into 3rd place, and then the engine inexplicably said, "Is the race over?" And he said, "No!" And, well... there were so many incidents in that final 5 minutes. I dread to think how long this replay sequence is going to go.
I mean, what a time for your engine to let go. I mean, I'm wondering whether there was contact that actually caused the problem for Kim Louis Schramm to have that problem. That was the replay of Patrick Niederhauser spinning round into the gravel. Just listening on board with Schramm.
This was a lap before. This is just showing the Niederhauser incident.
That was you.
Yeah.
Well, anybody got any spare Audi parts going? Some body panels in particular?
Now, that's interesting. I didn't pick up on that at the time. Schiller actually got into the back of Sturm, which ricocheted into Niederhauser. I didn't pick up on that at the time. Marciello capitalizing in a big way there. The various broken cars wheeling their ways into the garage. We are back to live pictures now, despite it saying replay on the screen. Live pictures of Christopher Mies, the most jubilant man in the paddock. I think not many jubilant faces in the paddock after that. There's going to be a lot of arguing.
There could be some long faces. I believe this is Tim Zimmerman's first ever win in ADAC GT Masters. Of course, Christopher Mies, defending champion. He also won the championship in 2016. He became a father just 2 weeks ago. And what a way to celebrate by taking a win just a couple of weeks later. Tim Zimmerman, what a great drive from him. Albert Costa Balboa and Jack Aitken. At the risk of repeating myself from yesterday, Jack Aitken said to me on Friday, I think we're out of the championship hunt now, we're too far back. And they come here and they take 2 second places. Jack, can I just tell you, you are back in the championship hunt.
Although I must say, that last 5 minutes will have gone against them somewhat, because all the other championship rivals were outside the top 5 minutes before the end of the race. It all kicked off, and then suddenly Marciello finishes 3rd.
It's still very much all to play for, with 4 races remaining.
He's coming with me.
Albert, yes, says bring it on. Gosh, I don't know how to take that all in. I'm going to be watching the replays just to take it all in. A solid drive from Jack Aitken and Albert Costa Balboa. We were saying only earlier on today what a great addition to the ranks of GT Masters being Jack Aitken and Albert Costa Balboa.
In the space of 8 minutes, 8 investigations have appeared on our timing screen. As you say, I think the midnight oil will be burnt, and then they'll go into the reserves from there.
Here is the classification, definitely subject to confirmation. It's Tim Zimmerman, Christopher Mies, ahead of Albert Costa Balboa, Jack Aitken, Raffaele Marciello, Daniel Juncadella, then Christian Engelhardt, Einstein Guben, Fabian Schiller, and Jules Gounon ahead of Max Paul, Marco Mapelli, Kim Louis Schramm and Dennis Marshall, Patrick Niederhauser and Luca Engstler somehow making it into the top 8. Banger racing, what banger racing? And then into 9th, just a few moments, that'll scroll up and that will show us that Marvin Dienst and Jan Marszalkowski came home to score points as well. But we're still just reeling as we look at the top 8. What an incredible race. We completed 43 laps here in the ADAC GT Masters. Right, here come the rest, and there is Dienst and Marszalkowski ahead. Niklas Kruten and Ben Green, a little bit of a subdued day for them in 10th place. Joel Sturm and Sven Muller somehow clawed it back to 11th ahead of Simon Riker, Norbert Siedler, Yusufa Vega and Ricardo Feller in 13th ahead of Arthur Rouget and Franck Pereira. Thierry Vermeulen and Matthias Drudy rounding out the point-paying positions. There are the remaining places. There were officially 5 non-finishers. If the race had gone another lap, there would have been a lot more than that. There was a lot of damage in those last couple of laps.
I tell you what, until about halfway through the race, that seemed not subdued, but somewhat calm. Then Katzberg missed the pit window, and it all went crazy from there. Here's another one of the many Joel Sturm incidents that happened in the last few minutes of the race. And we also saw the collision between Salman Ovega and Fabian Schiller. That put Ovega into a spin. Schiller miraculously managed to keep the car in the right direction. Of course, it was Schiller that forced Sturm out onto the grass in the first place. There's about 4 different incidents going on in one replay there, and this is exactly why I don't want to be a steward.
Indeed, yes, and I have to say Sturm was very lucky that he didn't actually get collected when he spun there. There is Christopher Mies in the Monteplas by Land garage celebrating a victory, and he is absolutely jubilant, and that is a well-deserved victory. I should say out front was probably the safest place to be because it was all kicking off behind, wasn't it?
Yeah, and of course, as we alluded to, victory number 50 for Audi in ADAC GT Masters. Victory number 1 came at Assen in 2009. Abt Motorsport, Christian Abt and Jan Seifert some 13 years ago, and they've had quite the history in GT Masters since then.
We've been looking to tick that box for a very long time now. Finally, the monkey is off the back and the 50 wins are in the book. Lots of post-race analysis will be taking place, and keep your eyes on all the various social media and news feeds of any penalties. I don't think there's any issues with the first 3. Not that I'm the steward, my word is merely opinion, but I think the first 3 are not likely to incur any wrath of stewards. That's more than we said for the bunch behind them. There they are, climbing up onto the podium. We haven't seen Marciello nor Juncadea. Now, we said that Raffaele Marciello is never satisfied with anything other than a top step of the podium. He's got to be happy with that, because a podium seemed out of the question just 5 minutes before the end of that race.
Well, I was sat there 10 minutes from the end, softening the blow of him finishing in 8th. I didn't expect him to come home 3rd after that. He would have been in a decent position in the championship had he finished where he was going to finish before everyone decided, you know what, we haven't got to use the car again for a month, so let's just go for it.
Oh, dear. Lots of damaged cars in the pit lane as the Land Motorsport team and Wolfgang Land looks on, and here comes the 3rd place drivers. Raffaele Marciello, cool as a cucumber. He's like, yeah, it was nothing, mate. That's what I do. Daniel Juncadea, what a great debut he has made into the Landgraf team. Now 2nd comes Albert Costa Balboa and Jack Aitken. Yet another trophy for Emil Frey Racing. They are really enjoying their debut year in the ADAC GT Masters as they pick up yet more silverware. But taking not only their first podium, but their first win of the season and the first win of the career of Tim Zimmermann in ADAC GT Masters. For Motorplast by Land Motorsport, it is Christopher Mies and Tim Zimmermann to the top step of the podium. Here comes a representative from Monteplas by Land Motorsport, who will pick up a trophy as well. And now we will stand a moment for the national anthem. Go. The anthem rings out, I think, not just for Mies and Zimmermann today, but also Land and Audi on such a momentous occasion as the trophies get presented. Brian, I have to ask you, you've been in this paddock much longer than I have. Do you remember a weekend this crazy? Wow, well, that's a question. I don't. I really don't. I've seen many GT Masters races, and there has been a lot of drama over the years. I've not seen anything like we saw both yesterday and today. And if you missed yesterday's race, I would strongly recommend you have a look at that as well. It has been drama from beginning to end in both races. I cannot remember a weekend like it.
Herman Tomczyk and Uwe Buchart have done some trophy presentations while we've been dissecting that. Those are two people who've been around a few paddocks over the years. I don't think they've been here for certainly a more damaging weekend. There you go. We've got some gold medalists on the podium as well. Christopher Gretner, skeleton gold medalist at the Beijing Winter Olympics this year, presents third place to Raffaele Marciello.
It's great to see Herman Tomczyk. Of course, he is the former ADAC Sports president, always ever present in the paddock here, even though he is no longer the sports president of the ADAC. Great to see him presenting the trophies. Great to see the spectators back after difficult years, and they have been thoroughly entertained. Look at the point situation. 10 points between Martial and Engelhardt and Guman. Kostebaum, Barrett-Aitken, just 25 points. That's a race win away from the top of the points. Gunon and Schiller still in there as well. Cruzen and Green, well, it's going to be a stretch, but they can still do it mathematically. There are still well over 100 points available this season, because we move to the Sachsenring at the end of September for the penultimate round of the ADAC GT Masters. It will be races 11 and 12. The undulating Sachsenring, it couldn't be any more different than the Lausitzring, and it will be dramatic.